Sing me a song of a lass that is gone.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee and today's video is a video in a series of videos about the amazing book by Diana Gabaldon called Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. Now this is a chapter by chapter review series, so if you haven't read up to chapter 20, then I would highly recommend jumping to another video or maybe starting at the start of the playlist. But if you are not wanting spoilers, then click away from these videos because the Go Tell the Bees series is full of spoilers. If you're looking for other Outlander content, I will list the Outlander playlist up above right now that has just generalized Outlander content but less spoilerish. I also want to say a very, very massive thank you. The channel hit 3,000 subscribers and it has just, I cannot express enough how thankful I am. I am going to put up a giveaway video very shortly, but that will be probably at the end of the week once I've sourced a few other little items that I want to put into it or how I want to do it, because I know that there are viewers on here that are from all over the world and postage for us at the minute is shocking. So I'm going to set it up so that no matter where you're from, you can win an item or win the item, but it might come from your specific country, if that makes sense, just to make shipping logistics a bit easier and so you actually get it within 2022. But we'll go more into that video. So if you see the big 3,000 thumbnail, click on that to enter. I, again, cannot thank you all. It just warms my heart. Honestly, it's blown my mind. But thank you. Today's video, though, is about chapter 20 from Go Tell the Bees, and the chapter was titled, I Bet You Think This Song Is About You. It is predominantly told by Claire, and it is set in the Garden of Malva, is how I've sort of picking it up in my brain. And it's a shorter chapter, but it has a few very cool details in it and a lot of sort of references to the good old days, obviously evident by the chapter title. Now that I absolutely love. I love when they bring in a couple of little, tidbits from nowadays sort of thing into it. It reminds you that don't forget that Claire is from the future. Like, Claire is from this time. There's a lot that she's missing out on. And I just love that they bring little things in throughout the series just to give you that, don't forget. I mean, I suppose it is pretty hard to forget that Claire is from the future. That is kind of what this whole series is about. But when we have, so far in this book, through all the readings, you do forget in the midst of reading chapters that she's from the future because she's settled in so well. She has it just down pat. Like, it is a life now. Her life is back in the time era that she's in, and it's just like she has adapted so well. I know I would not have adapted so well as she has. Like, the whole everything would be hard and stretched out for me, but it does. I love how it incorporates little tidbits. It's just that, oh yeah, don't forget she's missing out on toilet paper. So as I said, this chapter is set at the start with Claire being in the garden that, Malva sort of was found killed in. And she's discussing how, well, things are starting to change. The garden is starting to grow and it's sort of having less of that memory attached to it. Obviously for Claire, when she goes to visit, she remembers everything about it and Malva, and, she on occasions talks to Malva or she talks to God or whoever she wants to talk to up there. And it's just a nice reminder of the past, if that makes sense. It's a nice reminder that Malva was a pretty decent, well, not decent, but a substantial character, and her garden, and she's still there, kind of. She's still in everyone's thoughts on occasion, and just, yeah, I appreciate that, and the timing of that too, with season 6 coming out on the TV. That's kind of helpful. There was also a lot of thinking from Claire in regards to books. Now, we know that when she the family lost pretty much all of their books when the big house fire was burnt down, and she's starting to think about how it's nice that they are starting to have a new collection of books. Obviously, we know all about the ones that Brie brought, including the ominous Frank book that I will go into a little bit more. But it's nice to know that their collection of books is also growing with, I mean, the Frank book is not going to leave my mind. Until I have read this entire book, the Frank book is going to stay right at my peripheral vision, especially every time they bring up books. Every single time without fail that they say, oh, I've got this book, or Jamie's reading Green Eggs and Ham again, or whatever. As soon as they mention books, I'm like, oh, here we go. Someone's going to be like, oh, there was some sort of code in here and Frank has said this and here we go, it's happening. But I just it hasn't yet. Although we have a few little tidbits more with the Frank book. In the next part of the scene though, Jamie and Claire are sitting together discussing the books. Now, it's pretty obvious Jamie has some kind of disgust for the book with the way that he has sort of just put it down and left it open sort of thing. And Claire does think that, and she does make the remark that, wow, Jamie usually is much more careful with books, puts a bookmark in, closes the book, keeps it all together nice and neatly. But the Frank book, he's really just disregarded it, put it over to the side, open. And of course, we understand why. But he then comes up into conversation about Frank. And Jamie asks Claire how old Frank was when his photo was taken. That's on the back of the book. I found their discussion about this really, really fascinating. So obviously, Claire tells Jamie that he was 59. And to me, I'm like, wow, yeah, Frank was 59. Like, they were getting on in age. Not that 59 is old by any means. But, when you think about it, you picture these people in your head, it's like, yeah, hang on. They're all getting on. And I forget. And I forget all of the characters' ages in this book. I've said earlier in other chapters, I forgot that Francis was so young, and I forgot that William was just sort of, in that sort of, not adolescent, but in that range. And then, like, Jamie and Claire to me are still fit young people, but they're not. They're starting to get on in age, and it's like, it's always just a nice kick in to be like, wait, Frank was 59, Claire's older than Frank? Uh-oh, we're getting on in age. Again, I say, not old in the real aspects of the world, but in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, reminder that he's old. Now, the conversations about Frank do continue, and Jamie does ask Claire if Frank was an honest person. I mean, this is a little bit hard because as Frank book version, honesty was probably not something that I would have put out there as a keyword to describe Frank. But Claire does say, well, yes, he was honest, but like all marriages, there are secrets. And that threw me a bit because I was like, well, I feel like dishonest was probably the better thing to put in there for Frank. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Frank hater by any means. I think poor Frank suffered a lot at the start of this entire series, and it's a big deal that she came back with somebody else's baby, and it's like, who knows how you would handle that entire situation. But honesty, we know Frank did some dodgy dealings. So I was a bit thrown when Claire wasn't just straight out, well, no, he wasn't the best honest man, but whatever. That threw me a little bit. But then we continued on and discussed more about Frank. Well, not so much more about Frank, but the fact that Jamie believes that Frank wrote the book to him. Now, at this point, we know Jamie has read, I'm going to say the majority of that book, if not all of it. And he does say to Claire, he believes Frank has written that book to him. And it's become apparent then that, wait a minute, Claire's clicked. Maybe Frank knew that she went back. And to me, this was the most definite point in the book, for Claire to realise that, well, yeah, Frank may have known she went back into the past, may have known that Bree went back into the past, and may know Roger went back. Like, there's a whole history. Like, who knows what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years for Jamie, Claire, Bree and Roger in the past that could be written into something substantial for Frank in the future for him to find, if that makes sense. So it really, it's odd that it didn't occur to me until this point in the book that Claire has not clicked on this. But when she did, I was like, oh, okay, are things going to start unraveling here? Is this something that Claire's going to be like, okay, we need to be more careful about what happens so that it can't come up in the future? I don't know. It was a bit like this could be a real time travel. We could change things up here, but I know that's not really the style for these books. It's like, I personally believe that nothing that Claire and anyone does in the past at this point is going to change the future. I believe it's already happened, if that makes sense. Like, I believe that Jamie and Claire attempted to stop Culloden, but it had already happened. So if that makes sense. I mean, that is an entire video all by itself, but I just hope that makes sense, because when we're talking about the time travel aspects of Outlander, it really can get blurry on what you believe is able to happen in these books. I hope that makes sense. When I said earlier about the pulling tidbits in from the future back to the past as a nice little reminder, dinner was served that night and it was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now, how ironic is that? I mean, we know that is what Claire took with her in her visit back to the past, when we had her going to the print shop and she had that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So it was nice to see that as a little throw in as well. And she did also talk to Jamie about the glad wrap, or the plastic wrap as she called it, and it was just a nice little, well, hang on, there's another little tidbit from the future being brought back as a reminder that it is, you know, we have two different timelines going on. We have Claire that's been in the future, and we have Claire living her best life in the past. So even though the chapter was short and sweet-ish, it was full of little information and little things that I think are going to play out later on. With again, I'm not giving up on Frank's book. I know all the people that have read all the book are like, Kaylee, just shut up about the book. We're over the book. Nothing happens with the book. But I really feel, I just feel there's something brewing with that book. But, you know, I'm going to start pumping out these videos so I know, because it's really starting to annoy me. If you have enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and I will see you very shortly. In fact, I'll see you tomorrow, because I need to read more of this book right now for another chapter review. I hope everyone has a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Sing me a song of